From Cincinnati, Ohio, Tom Hammond, Elfie Schlegel, Tim Daggett, and Beth Ruyak, ready to bring you women's competition in the 1997 International Team Gymnastics Championships. Today we'll get a glimpse of the future of international women's gymnastics. Many young hopefuls competing today. This is a team-only competition, no individual all-round title up for grabs. Dominique Moceanu is here. She'll be competing only in beam and floor exercise. And Gina Gogin of Romania, silver medalist in the all-around Atlanta, will also be in competition this afternoon. The young Chinese team looking to perhaps make a name for themselves here early. 6 athletes on each team. 5 compete on each apparatus. 4 of those scores will count. Now for the United States, Jamie Dantzscher. She's only 14 years old, but was second in the all-around at the American Classic earlier this year.
Jamie actually trains with Vanessa Atler, who we remember from the American Cup.
Nice job. Okay, exactly the same. Squeezing in, a little straighter arms. You can pop it a little more than that. Right?
There's her coach, Steve Rybacki. What he said about Jamie, it's interesting. He says she trains better than she competes, and he's really hoping that this year will be her coming out party. A lot of Olympians have chosen not to compete internationally. He would really like to see her make the national team.
Well, you know, Elfie, this was much better than I saw her do in training prior to the competition. She deals with this quite well. This vault comes out of a 9.8.
And 9.375, the score for her first vault. Remember, they are averaged. Second vault coming up.
She'll perform the identical vault once again, just try to eliminate that step on the landing.
Whoa. I'll tell you, it was pretty identical from the first vault, but I was a little nervous. Her hand placement on the horse wasn't as exact as it should have been. She didn't really get a good bump off the horse. A fairly flat vault.
Now for Romania, on bars, Erica Boncina of Romania.
I said this team was inexperienced. She has never competed on the podium before.
Hi, Erika, start it.
Trouble up at the top. In fact, I think she hit her foot on the low bar and fall on the landing.
Wow.
These are not great routines. In fact, we said that it's one of their weakest events. They're quite compulsory. They seem to all do the same thing.
Rocky start for the Romanians, but for the U.S., Dantzscher 9.337. We'll be back to Cincinnati. Welcome back to Cincinnati, where the first rotation continues. Dominique Moceanu just watching this rotation, passing on this apparatus, sitting next to Marta Caroli, who is her coach, along with her husband Bella. And Gina Gogin of Romania, their accomplished Olympic veteran, passing this first rotation as well. The Romanians continue on bars. Here's Corina Ungureanu.
Well, this is a must-do routine. She needs to hit this one, and unfortunately, her start value is quite low. It's only out of a 9.4, so she has to hit solidly.
Her teammate Boncina had only an 8.3 on this apparatus.
A nice sequence right here. Unbelievable.
Hi, mai departe, hi.
And we may be happy we don't know what he said.
You know, this is really unfortunate because this is a team that prides itself on its consistency. They may not have the most difficult routines, but they are consistent. Very unusual. Just the dismount.
So a chance here for the U.S. team on the first rotation to build a bit of a lead. Next up, Vanessa Atler on vault, 15 years old. She has her own web page where she keeps a diary and gets about 2,000 hits a day on the internet.
You know, Tom, she should be able to score very well on this event. She's planning to do a double twisting Yurchenko. The start value is 9.9.
Yes. Very nicely done. Just that small step back.
Yeah, I'd say that's the only correction. She's planning to do the same vault twice. You know, it's unfortunate because this vault was valued out of a 10.0 last summer. I still think it's super difficult. It's unfortunate that it went down a 10th.
There is a lot going on right here. She leaves the horse, does 1.5 flips and 2 twists. Just that small step on the landing, but that is some tough vaulting.
Her first vault, 9.550.
She just narrowly missed winning the American Cup, was second.
In fact, won the vault competition there.
Same vault. Oh, it was better. Wow.
Better landing. She is so aggressive. I'm so impressed by her competitive toughness.
All right, my dear, let's keep it going, okay? All right, good job.
A man we haven't seen for a very long time in the background there, Bella Caroli, who's here, of course, coaching Dominique Moceanu.
And taking an uncharacteristic back seat at this competition.
Now back to the bars. Ungureanu had an 8.70. And now up is Maria Olaru.
Can't tell you how uncharacteristic it is to see a Romanian gymnast score below a 9.0. This is a must-hit situation. She could have a good set here. She hits all her release skills. Nice transition down to the low bar. That's called a pack salto. This is where most of the action takes place, up on the high bar. Full twisting giant, Tkachev. Very safe. Not a great deal of height. Of course, these guys cannot afford another fall. Big step.
Wow, that was close. She almost went over on that.
But at least no fall for the Romanians on bars, and that is a victory in itself, given their disastrous start. Vanessa Atler of the U.S., 9.562 on her vaults. Olaru had a 9 on the bars. So we move to the second rotation, and our first look at the Chinese women, much like the Chinese men, a team of vast potential, but usually unrealized potential. And also in that first rotation, Elfie, we didn't see Gina Gojin, who of Romania was the silver medalist in the all-around in Atlanta, but not competing in every event here.
And Tom, it's so hard for me to believe that the coach would allow an athlete who won 4 medals at the Olympic Games to sit out in a rotation, especially because the Romanians had such a rough start on the uneven bars. I think they would have taken anything that Gina would have to offer, and especially because Gina has been one of the most consistent athletes in Romania.
And Tim, I just can't get used to seeing a U.S. team out there without Shannon Miller, Dominique Dawes, and the other veterans.
Well, it is a very different team and an inexperienced team, so a competition like this is very important for them. But what this U.S. team did that obviously Romania didn't is they went out and did their routines. No major mistakes on the first event. World Championships about 5 months away. These young athletes will be on the floor representing the USA. They needed experience of a meet like this to prepare for Switzerland.
The Chinese had a bye in the first rotation. They'll be on the vault when we return. After one rotation in Cincinnati, the United States has taken the lead with Romania second. The Chinese with a bye in the first rotation. Now here's Kathleen Shreves. She is a high school junior in Dayton, Maryland, the Washington, D.C. area. This is her first international meet. In fact, she found out only 4 days ago that she would be competing here.
And Tom, this is her best event. Check out the height that she gets on her release skills. She's very aggressive. In fact, this routine, its start value should be out of a 9.8. That's very high at this stage of the new code of points. Here's the combination all here. Lots of twisting action on the high bar. Most of the gymnastics takes place, at least most of the difficult skills, on the high bar. Routine.
But for finding out only 4 days ago she would be in her first international meet, she shrugs off the pressure with a nice routine.
There's her coach, Gary Anderson, who is absolutely psyched at her dismount. Look at him, he's thrilled. She trains with the Marvatines.
Put her in a headlock there, didn't he? And why not? 9.450 for Kathleen Shreves.
Remember, the best score we saw from Romania from their entire performance on bars was 9-0.
So the U.S. with a chance to add to its lead as Vanessa Atler gets set for her bars routine.
You know, this young lady was 6 weeks too young to even try out for the 1996 Olympic team, and she is also too young to even compete at the next World Championships because of a rule change.
And that is so sad, because what that leaves her with is the 1999 World Championships, which is the qualification for the 2000 Olympic Games.
Many people think she is the next great one for this U.S. squad.
And it's because of her competitive drive. We saw it on the vault. We're seeing it here.
Oh, and that is amazing. Very, very easy skill.
It's actually a transition skill just to get back up onto the high bar for the tough stuff. It's really a nothing skill, just gets the left foot on, completely misses the right, and of course, it's a deduction, it's a fall.
And you know, Elfie, I think that happens because she's thinking ahead of herself. She's worrying about the next big skill instead of making sure you take care of all the easy ones as well. Big dismount. Full twisting double layout. A little bit uncontrolled on the landing.
Disappointing performance for Vanessa.
Okay, you got to make it up.
And you got to make it up. She and the U.S. team will indeed. As we see our first Chinese gymnast in action now, this is Meng Fei, just turned 16 years old a few days ago.
That number on the left indicates the type of vault that she'll be performing. Handspring front pike with half twist. That was nice. Unfortunately, this vault is only out of a 9.60. Hard to believe.
Yeah,
spectacular.
It really is hard to believe, Elfie, because this is a hard vault and she does it great. You know, the Chinese, they came into Atlanta and everybody thought they were going to be the team to beat, certainly for the men, and a lot of people were quite afraid of the women as well, but they did not live up to expectations. We talked with an official from the Chinese delegation, and he said that the biggest problem is a psychological problem. They just don't know how to hit.
So Vanessa Atler with a poor score on her bars routine, expected. And now the second vault for Meng.
And that 2.405 indicates again the same style vault, front handspring in a pike position with a half twist. Last year, it was worth a 9.9. Again, this year, whole new ball game, 9.6 is the maximum. Oh, that was pretty.
Yeah, I don't know where you find any deductions on that. That was beautiful.
Now here's Kristin Maloney from a small town in Pennsylvania, Penn Argyll, Pennsylvania, only 20,000 population. She just found out a week ago she would be competing here. How young is she? Well, she has a cat, Fluffy, that's 16 years old, older than she is.
This has been one event where Kristin has struggled. She struggled on her dismount at the American Cup, made it to the finals. That was the one area she took a major deduction on 2 days in a row. This opening is beautiful, however. Shaposhnikova. Very important for the women to complete all their elements in complete handstand. If they're slightly off, they're giving away tenths to the judges.
It's her most tricky.
Right there.
Transition right there.
Fight, fight, fight. That was the fight.
And Kristin being greeted by her coach, or one of her coaches, Jack Carter. Meanwhile, the Chinese celebrating after Meng recorded a 9.262 average on her vaults.
That's far too low, Tom. That vault had height, distance. It was perfectly landed, much too low.
Yeah, I'd like to go ask the judges how they got a 9.3 for that second vault. It was darn near perfect, if not.
Chinese junior men's team providing support in the stands, and there's Kristin Maloney's 9.0 on bars. Meanwhile, we have yet to see Dominique Moceanu in action. She is trying to keep loose at the moment. She is competing in only 2 events. We'll see her on beam later on. Kristin Kristin Maloney, Vanessa Atler of the U.S. team trying to hang on to the lead as we are midway through the second rotation. Octavian Bellu, the Romanian coach, has not been a happy man so far, checking out the scores, and we assume not liking what he is seeing there. Here's Theresa Kulikowski of the U.S. on bars.
No question, this is Theresa's best event. Watch for her form, her beautiful line. She's a very tall athlete. She does exceptional skills, but this routine, because of the new code, is only out of a 9.4. That's if she hits everything.
Tall for a gymnast, we should say. She's less than 5'4".
And there's a problem right there. Big mistake. Swings down, takes an intermediate swing.
That was a beautiful release skill, but a huge deduction already coming her way. She's moving very slowly throughout this routine.
That's bad news. That is the second mistake for this USA squad. That means they will count a fall on bars. Romania had given them the opportunity with all of their mishaps.
And Tom Forster trying to provide a little comfort after that rocky routine.
Well, the first miss came off the top of the routine. What she was supposed to do was a complete full twist right around the bar into the release skill. Instead, ends up doing a move with very poor form, gets back into the routine, and eventually throws the skill.
And records a poor score, 8.475. So the U.S. in a bit of trouble here. They need a big performance from Jamie Dantzscher on bars.
Again, this is an event that Jamie considers to be her best. She's dynamite. She has top skill. Of course, everyone's still fighting through this new code, trying to figure out where the trends are going. But look at this skill. Pack salto, very aggressive.
Beautiful flight elements.
See her coach, Steve Rybacki, moving in for another release skill. Wow, she almost came close to not catching the bar. Very risky. Big dismount planned. Double twisting, double tuck.
And that should give the U.S. team a lift. Jamie Dantzscher with a big performance on bars.
You have arrived, my dear.
And arrived at just the right time.
Good job.
She, of course, trains along with Vanessa Atler right there. And this is great. Shades of Amy Chow right here. Double twisting, double somersault. One of the most difficult skills being done on bars in the world today.
And her score, 9.30, which puts the U.S. back on track. Now from China, Chen Mi on vault.
This is a vault that is only out of a 9.8, a 1.5 twisting Yurchenko. Again,
the vault that Carrie Strug made famous, the same one she did on that injured ankle in Atlanta. Wow. And that actually was not a very well done vault at all. A little bit too whippy, not enough bounce off of the horse.
Well, there's what she meant to do. I don't think I've ever seen that, a cartwheel coming back.
One more practice turn for her.
what she needs to do to improve on this vault is to get more height, a cleaner twist in the air, and because it's a blind landing, she has to open up at the right time in order to try to even nail the landing. That's where all these mistakes are coming from, unnecessary steps on the landing.
Very young Chinese team we have here. Only one member from the 1996 Olympic team. She'll do the same vault. A little bit better.
You can see the youth of the Chinese reflected in their faces, but seem to be unfazed by the pressure of this international competition as the fanfare sounds the end of the second rotation. And her default average score 9.137. So the U.S. marches off for a rest. They'll have a bye in the third rotation, while the Romanians have tried to regroup from their disastrous start. And at the end of 2 rotations here in Cincinnati, it is the U.S. still holding the lead, with China now second and Romania third. We'll be back. Welcome back to Cincinnati. The United States has completed 2 events. They have the bye this round, and so the standings after 1 event show the U.S. in front. Gina Gogin of Romania, the silver medalist in the Olympic all-around last summer, is now in an unfamiliar role. For more on that, here's Beth Ruyak.
Gina Gogin isn't used to being the leader.
Team leader and trying to rally these youngsters after a disastrous start on bars, trying to redeem themselves here on beam. This is Dobrescu.
Tom, you talk about pressure being the first one up. This sets the pace for the entire team. Now, Alexandra does have some international experience. However, she was not part of the '96 Olympic squad.
A lot of the same tumbling sequences that you saw in the past, the athletes will not be performing because they just don't receive that type of bonus. But as Elfie mentioned, she does have more experience than many of her teammates. She competed last year in the United States at the 1996 American Cup, placing 4th in the all-around.
Getting set for a tumbling skill, a front somme. You'll be seeing a lot of this skill in many routines, and
wow,
big break.
This is bad news for Team Romania. You fall off the apparatus, it is a mandatory 5/10 of a point deduction, and you don't want that to happen with your first athlete. That means all 4 of the next performers must hit to not count a break.
Their dismount. Gainer back handspring, 2-foot, back handspring, double tuck.
And the problems continue for the Romanians. Remember now, the U.S. has a bye in this round, and so we'll see the Chinese competing on bars. This is Wang Xin.
Well, many of the countries have been complaining about the new code of points, and you know, it does take some time to develop the new trends, but these athletes here from the Chinese team are trendsetters. They've always been. This is their event. They do some of the most interesting combinations in the world.
Very, very difficult, intricate combinations as well. It's almost like they wrote the code of points. That's very, very difficult, all done in sequence. Beautiful pirouetting moves that land exactly in a handstand in what we call an L grip.
Not only that, Tim, but that skill you just saw her perform going to the high bar, very difficult. Most athletes choose to do very simple skills to get back on the high bar, but they don't. They go that extra bit.
All of her teammates encouraging her to stick that landing.
That's sort of a universal language, isn't it, stick?
Sure is. From start to finish, though, this exercise is just jam-packed. All of the other athletes from all around the world, as Elfie mentioned, they're struggling with the new code of points, but the Chinese, with skills like that, done in combination,
they have the pretty form. Their handstands are executed perfectly, but they also have the flexibility in their shoulders to complete skills like this.
Now, for you folks at home, you're going to see this quite a bit from the Chinese. Just put your arms over your head and rotate your shoulders completely in. That's how they're swinging around the bar.
I'm
Very
doing
difficult.
it now, and I'm having problems, Tim. But she had no problems. 9, 6, 7, 5, and you get the idea that the U.S. team, watching with a bye, has found that the Chinese are going to be the major competition here. And here's a familiar face, Liu Xuan, an Olympic veteran from China.
She was part, Tom, of the 4th place team at the Olympic Games. She's now the team leader, very experienced. This is her event. Back in 1994, she introduced a one-arm skill to the world. The judges decided they didn't want the sport going in that direction on this event, so they didn't give it the value that the Chinese had hoped they would.
Which was ridiculous, Elfie. They valued it as a C, and it was so difficult.
Transitions like those, people often complain that the bars are too far apart. We can't do anything interesting. Well, you know what? The Chinese don't complain. They create.
Look at the body line, the extension.
Here are teammates in the background.
She still has her Olympic form. That was hopped up.
Wow. Golly, I tell you, you look at these athletes, and just about every one of them is starting at 10 in these routines. All the other countries, USA, Romania, they're somewhere 9.3, 9.4 start values.
Yeah, Tim, this team has higher start values than both Romania and USA. Exquisite work. Look at how close the hands are together. Pirouetting skills into a release skill, sky high. Beautiful transitions down to the low bar. Look at her legs, completely stuck together, toes pointed, and then tops it off with an incredible dismount. Stretched out, double layout, bang.
And her score, 9.750, and smiles all round for the Chinese in Cincinnati. In Cincinnati, Dominique Moceanu is here but hasn't competed yet. Must be getting a little impatient, full of energy, and over there on the sideline practicing some routines. Dobrescu, you remember, fell off the beam. And now for China, Chen Mi on bars.
Again, we mentioned the Chinese having top difficulty. Of course, this has been their event. It hasn't been difficult for them to adapt to the new code of points. The value of this routine should be out of a 10.0.
Had some problems with that in warm-ups, and was
that close?
Barely on the bar.
Bit of a mistake there on the low bar, but she managed to do another skill to help her fight out of it. These are the transitions that are wonderful. They're difficult at the same time.
Double laid out somersault step on the landing. A good routine, but certainly not what we saw from Liu Xuan. The team veteran Xuan walks over to add her encouragement.
And Gina Gojin will be up on beam shortly. And Chen's score, 9.475. Must be an anxious time for the U.S. team with a bye this round, and only trying to stay loose and watching the competitors and maybe worrying a little bit about the Chinese. Let's see if Gina can come up with a big performance for the Romanians to get them solidly back in the competition.
Gina hasn't committed to going the distance to the 2000 Olympic Games. She told her coach Octavian Bellew that she would commit herself to the World Championships this summer. She would hang around for this year and just see how things will go. But she's been having a little bit of a difficult time creating new routines that are quite demanding with this new code.
One of the toughest competitors I have ever seen. At the World Championships in 1994, she took one of the nastiest falls and got right back up on the beam.
But will this be enough to put the Romanians back on the beam?
Well, it certainly is doing exactly what they want, which is getting through a solid exercise. Give them a little bit of momentum back.
Setting up for a dismount, 2 flip-flops to a double tuck. It's Consistent. It was clean, not exciting. The start value of that routine is only a 9.8, but she should score fairly close to that 9.8.
So you wonder about Gina's competitive fire these days, undecided about Sydney and adjusting to a new role of leadership. And it must be a time of transition for the Olympic stars. Speaking of Olympic stars, Dominique Moceanu coming up on the beam a little bit later for the United States. Here's Gina Gogin's score on the beam, 9.475. Maybe that will turn Romania around. We'll be back. How librarian. We return to Cincinnati with the standings after two events, with the Chinese leading the U.S. and the Romanians really had a struggle on the bars in third place. The Chinese have a bye here as the U.S. swings back into action with Theresa Kulikowski on the beam. Theresa, an 11th grader at Palmer High School in Colorado Springs, and adjusting to that new school for her this year.
Talked about this mount being very popular, but connecting to that jump, that's what gives Theresa an extra bonus point. Remember, the women today with the new code of points, they start from a 9.0. That means there's a full point for bonus points and special connections.
But it is a very different environment for Theresa nowadays in the gym. In the past, accustomed to training with a number of athletes on the elite level that were trying to qualify for a world or Olympic team. Now she is the only elite in her program. Her club is in Colorado Springs, the Colorado Arios.
This is actually her first international meet in the United States. She has competed some out of the country. Much easier, she says here.
An old-time skill, an aerial front walkover. Of course, it looks great on Theresa. Long lines, great flexibility. Where she really excels is in her technique, her execution of all her skills. Very nice combination. Acro gymnastics series, fulfilling yet another special requirement.
Must be kind of rough to be first up after sitting out all that time with the bye, and Theresa gave a pretty good account of herself.
Sorry, and you couldn't stick the landing one. All right.
Yeah, coming back after a really rough time on the uneven bars. That was a very strong and solid set.
What are you doing?
Yeah, sigh of relief after redeeming herself somewhat. Here's Claudia Presicon of Romania on floor exercise.
She actually has a little bit of international experience, was on the gold medal winning team for Romania at the 1995 World Championships, so she's been there. Bellew didn't know how many from this squad would actually make the World Championship team this summer, but I think Claudia Presicon is probably a sure bet for that team. Well, you know, this is a very solid event for the Romanians floor exercise, especially this team. And, you know, they really have quite an advantage because they finish on unquestionably their strongest event, vaulting. So if they can get through 4 and go on to a strong event vaulting, I think they'll do well.
And talk about recovering, Kulikowski with 9.45 on her beam, and she has gotten straightened out, at least it would appear so after that beam routine. Now let's see Vanessa Atler on the beam apparatus.
Well, this is certainly one of Vanessa's strengths. She is incredibly aggressive on this event. You're going to see a variety of skills, which is what the judges are looking for in the new code of points. They want variety, no repetition. Starts off with a front summy. Slight pause in that connection to the jump. They may not give her the extra 10. Watch this tumbling skill. Goes the entire length of the beam, but watch the final skill. Super height, straight body layout. That skill is going to give her 2/10 of a bonus. Remember, they start from a 9.0.
Vanessa is trying to bounce back from a shaky last performance as well on bars so far. No problems. Her coach, Steve Rybecki, told me he is so fearful of Vanessa being under the microscope. He thought that Dominique Moceanu suffered because of it, as well as gymnasts like Kim Zemeskel. He's made it one of his major priorities to make sure that she avoids that problem area.
Kim, she's doing an amazing job. She has got such a variety of skills. She's solid, she's focused. This is how beam should be worked. Looks like she's on the floor exercise, not on 4 inches, that's for sure.
Boy, she is just a powerful young lady, I'll tell you. Powerful and aggressive, too.
There's a look at perhaps the future of U.S. women's gymnastics, Vanessa Atler, with her beam performance.
Got that right.
Pressicon score on floor exercise, 9.475. And now Ungureanu with her floor exercise coming up for the Romanian team, which is back in the competition after that disastrous spell on the bars.
She'll do a tremendous amount of twisting throughout this exercise.
So far, a great display of tumbling. She's been strong, just needs to end off well here. Final tumbling past double pike.
Tell you, Tom, one thing you should never do in the sport of gymnastics is count the Romanians out.
It appears a strong performance on the floor exercise has the Romanian team straightened out. We'll see more when we return to Cincy.
They're coming from Japan.
We return to the Queen City of Cincinnati, where Dominique Moceanu, one of the queens of Atlanta, continues to bide her time. She has yet to compete. Vanessa Atler has, though, and on the balance beam recorded a strong 9.50. Now it's Kristin Maloney's turn.
This is an excellent apparatus for Kristin Maloney. She has jam-packed difficulty. That's one characteristic of the parkettes. They tend to throw everything in their beam routine. And of course, with the new code demanding variety, this works well for Kristin. Watch this combination here. That sequence right there alone gives her 6/10 of bonus, if you can believe that.
Competition very tight. The U.S. currently in second place.
That sequence that I mentioned earlier, 6/10 bonus, was more difficult than those layout skills.
Her coach, Donna Strauss, told us that she is a fantastic worker, but things really don't come easy for her. She kind of plods away.
One thing Donna has taught her is to finish every element. You can see her really fighting on each one of those skills, especially on that front summy she just completed. Arms out to the side. Required full turn, still in this new code of points. It's been a required element forever.
Even when you were competing, Hyle.
That's true. And her dismount, 2 flip-flops, double back.
Another solid set for USA on balance beam.
The only U.S. athlete with a start value of 10.0 on this event.
Meanwhile, the score for Ungureanu on floor exercise, 9.675. Good score for the Romanians. They really have recovered on the floor exercise, and now Olaru takes her turn.
She was in the Junior European Championships where she placed 4th all around, a coming out party for many great gymnasts. Great pass. Very, very difficult. Double twisting front somersault right into a pike front.
One trend that I've noticed the Romanians have not taken is a lot of countries are deciding to go with 4 complete tumbling passes. Most of the Romanians only have 3. They are well conditioned on floor exercise. Their tumbling is great. She ended with a triple twist, one of the most difficult tumbling passes on women's floor exercise.
And once again, another very, very strong routine for the Romanians.
It's been an excellent recovery by the Romanian team, thanks to some good performances on the floor exercise. Kristin Maloney, 9.525 on the beam, and coming up, Ungureanu.
Now showing.
Not quite as excited about competition as in the past.
I asked Dominique if she was nervous coming back to international competition. She said no. Touring the United States has helped her a great deal. It's helped her to learn how to perform each and every night. She has had to change her beam routine. The new code of points demands just a little bit more of a performance that she gave in Atlanta. Nice combination wolf jump into a punch front.
Dominique has a new skill coming up right here. Trying to gain those points from the new code. Laid out back, and she's off the beam. Once again, you know, you have to do the elements that bring you the tenths of a point. But if you fall, it is a 5/10 deduction. No two ways about it.
Bella says she was one of the most consistent performers in touring the United States, didn't make a single mistake.
Not so here. And the fans obviously still love her, but a disappointing return to international competition for Dominique.
Yes. But, you know, first time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, Marta's saying first time, it's all right, but a fall is obviously not good enough for international competition today, especially what the rules are demanding.
And Bella said that she struggled. She's the fighter, always staying on the beam. International gymnastics, it doesn't slow down. Doesn't matter how many gold medals you've won. If you're not back in the gym doing the new stuff, you're not going to come out on top.
That was not the Dominique we remember. Olaru on floor exercise, 9.650. The Romanians continue to pile up points on floor exercise. Gina Gogin is next.
They have an inexperienced team here with them, but this young lady has a whole lot of experience. She's world champion twice on this apparatus. They need her now.
Right there. Most gymnasts, if they landed on their heels like that, would have either sat down or certainly gone out of bounds.
The familiar stoic face of Gina Gogin rarely shows any emotion. But her leadership has rallied this Romanian team, and she is hoping that there's a brief smile, that performances like that can carry them to victory. That's the end of the rotation. We'll return to Cincinnati for more competition in a moment. So the U.S. and Romania have completed 3 events. We show you the standings only after 2, which doesn't reflect the rise of the Romanians with that floor exercise. And the Chinese now in action on the beam. Here is Meng set for her beam routine.
This is one of the most exciting balance beam exercises of the competition. She has such a variety of skills, but watch this opening skill right here. It's a front summy with a half twist. Very little room for error. Perfectly executed. What you're going to find with the Chinese beam routines, once again, is variety. They're really stressing originality. They have some of the highest start values over any other country. Combination tumbling skill. Now things have changed a little. That second layout will not give her any credit. She'll just get credit for the combination itself.
One of the experienced athletes, actually competed on the world team in Sabai in 1995 for China. Boy, this is jam-packed, though, I'll tell you.
A lot of different skills, exactly what the judges want to see. A variety of backwards and forward skills, skills with height and twist. Just her dismount, relatively simple, double tuck, but good enough for this competition.
Meng Fei of China on the balance beam. They've been pretty enthusiastic this entire meet, happy with their performances. The next generation of Chinese gymnasts.
Talking to the Chinese officials, they say repeatedly that the biggest challenge these athletes have is dealing with the psychological pressures of competition.
The Romanians have a bye in this rotation. The U.S. on floor exercise. Here's Vanessa Atler.
This will be a great test for Vanessa. Her opening tumbling pass is a very difficult skill. Now, the other day in practice, she must have spent 45 minutes on the same skill over and over again. She just couldn't get it down.
The thing that's so difficult about this pass is it's totally blind. When you're flipping forwards only, you can't see the floor until your feet are on it. Very tricky. Right here.
She's out of bounds. That's 1/10.
Plenty of power on it, though, just like you said. Over-rotated those steps forward and then out of bounds. This was the final event that she competed on at the American Cup, had an opportunity to win that competition. Also did not do her very best job there. Well, you know, a little bit of a struggle in that exercise, but I'll tell you, she really has some tremendous potential. One of the most powerful athletes that I've seen in a long time.
You did all the corrections you were supposed to do. I'm happy. Okay. I am. Don't get upset about it. Okay. Not well, you did a beautiful double front.
Well, her coach, Steve Rybacki, is talking about that opening tumbling pass that they worked on forever in practice the other day. He said, you did everything I asked you to. She opened up just a little bit too late. Had she opened up a tad bit sooner, she probably would have stayed in bounds.
Yeah, actually, that was a much better tumbling pass technically. She just had a little bit more power than she was used to and didn't open up like Elfie said.
9-1-5-0, her floor exercise score. Meng on the balance beam recorded a 9-5-5. And next up will be Chen Mi of China.
We'll see a different mount here. Instead of a front flip, she'll do what's called a round off onto the board and then a back laid out somersault onto the beam.
In fact, most of the Chinese athletes, with the exception of Meng Fei, do this opening skill to mount, unlike the Romanians who chose to do the front summy. However, both skills are the same value. One of the popular moves for the Chinese, and they do those so well. Laid out, stretched body position.
And then landing on 2 feet at one time, considered much more difficult. A little bit off there.
Watching them in practice the other day, they do balance beam routines one after the other. I'm sure they got at least 5 or 6 routines in full sets. Anytime an athlete had a problem, she would stop exactly where she had that problem, remount the balance beam. The coach made her go through the entire routine all over again. Setting up for her dismount. It's a difficult beam set. High start value as well.
They have the high fives down pat, don't they? Chen Mi on her beam routine. And when we come back to Cincinnati, Dominique Moceanu looks for redemption on her floor exercise. International team gymnastics continues from Cincinnati. Dominique Moceanu fell off the balance beam in her only other routine of this competition, and now ready for the floor exercise. And let's see if that old competitive fire comes out in Dominique as she tries for some partial redemption.
Oh boy, actually right there she was supposed to do a double twist and didn't quite get it around.
Brand new exercise for Dominique Moceanu since the Olympic Games. Remember her floor routine at the Olympic Games? The devil went down to Georgia. Dominique has chosen to do 4 tumbling passes in this routine. Since her return to international competition, I haven't quite seen the same spark that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, that was a nice one. That was a nice one. That was a nice one.
Nice words from Bella, but I'm not sure that he totally believes them. It appears that Dominique has a way to go to return to top international form. Here's Jin Ying of China on the beam.
Well, so far in this competition, China has excelled on the uneven bars. They've excelled on the balance beam. Some of the top start values, as I mentioned, over the U.S. and Romania. I'm surprised that Jin Ying is so far down in the lineup. She actually has a lower start value than some of her other teammates.
There's her first tumbling sequence right here. Oh, we've seen that a couple of times today, and you tend to forget how tricky it actually is. The gymnasts make it look so easy, but it certainly is not. A little bit like Dominique Moceanu there.
Little wobbles here and there. Of course, they all add up. Small tenths are taken off that overall score.
It's been rough all the way through.
She doesn't have quite the same flow as her teammates, not as aggressive. But a triple twist dismount, that is extremely difficult. One of the hardest skills for a dismount off beam.
And no high high-fives this time as Jean Ying comes off the beam, does get a handshake, but obviously her teammates not as impressed with this routine.
But once again, sometimes we forget how tricky this actually is. She looked pretty good, though.
She was on. Her hips were just twisted. She probably could have saved it.
Ball cost her, though, the score 8.90. And meanwhile, Dominique Moceanu, same score, 8.90 for her floor exercise. Disappointing day for Dominique.
Yeah, what Dominique needs to do, obviously, is, and the crowd announcing their disapproval, she just needs to get back into the gym. She certainly is a tremendously talented young lady, but the judges have no choice. Her start value was 9.3 for that exercise. She just has to add some parts.
Here's Kristin Maloney.
One of the best tumbling runs of Kristin's exercise is right off the top here, double layout.
She's a great tumbler, and she's got a big pass plan. Triple twist at the end, very difficult when you're tired.
And it's her fourth tumbling run.
Well, remember, Kristin only found out a week ago that she would be competing here, and after a rough start, she's really given a good account of herself.
Good job.
So the United States is finished with the competition. They will have a bye in the final rotation. Kristin's performance will be their last score, and it's a good one, 9-5-2-5. So after 3 events, the standings find China in first place, the U.S. second, Romania third. Second spot.
Romania basically needs to match or do a little bit better than USA did on the floor exercise, and I'll tell you, if I was a betting man, I'd have to go with the Romanians. They had the strongest vaulting team of all in Atlanta for optional vault. Very, very powerful squad here.
And that number 4505 indicates a 9-9 start value.
A great vault right there.
Remember, both vaults are important. They average the 2 vaults. That's a Yurchenko with a double twist, again, out of a 9.9. Beautifully done.
I'll tell you, Octavian Bellou's gymnast reminding him that it's never over till it's over. He almost wanted to throw it in, it looked like, after bars, but with vaults like that, we see a spark back in his step.
Yeah, who could have guessed after they started so poorly on bars that they'd be with a chance to win the overall title.
Wow.
Another great ball, better, actually.
Had more height, more distance. I was going to say all she needed to do was improve on the landing. She did all of that.
Chinese are on floor exercise to wind up the competition. Meng Fei.
Traditionally not one of the strongest events for the Chinese, and that would be because of the tumbling. They lack power.
Actually, a little bit too much power right there on that triple full. Took a big, big step back.
And what she needed from the first tumbling pass, she needed a little help on the second.
this is exactly what can't happen to China. This is one of their weaker events. They need to be solid here with the Romanians on their strongest event, the vault. China does have a bit of a buffer here, about 4.5 tenths ahead of the Romanians. Well, unquestionably, they are going to hope that they get to throw that score out, because that will most likely not do it.
Yeah, the Chinese are going to hold on to first place. They'll need a better performance than that. Vakcina averaged 9.612 on the vault. And here's their star, Gina Gogin, up next.
Now, we talked about Gina not competing on the uneven bars. You have to wonder why Octavian Belu decided to do this. Perhaps it comes down to this moment. He needs her on one of her strongest events.
She's been world champion here as well. 1.5 twisting Yurchenko.
Now, it's a vault that's only valued out of a 9.8. What he's hoping for is that she'll score as close to the maximum as possible, which she is quite capable of doing. Blind landing, very difficult. She has to get a lot of height, open up at the exact moment. You can see just a very slight hop. That's the only thing she needs to improve to get a higher score.
Gina readies for her second vault. Meanwhile, it has to be sort of a strange situation for Dominique and the U.S. team. They're reduced to the role of spectators here. They can only watch to determine their fate. They get a bye this final rotation.
Again, the only thing Gina needs to improve on is the landing.
Oh, it was a great vault, but still that big hop on the landing. First score of 9.5. They are really way ahead of the USA, matching their scores and much more, and doing even worse damage to the Chinese. They only need to be about 1/10 of a point better for each performer against the Chinese to end up victorious here.
Average 9.487. And on floor exercise for China, Chen Mi.
Well, remember, China has one miss, so they really want to throw that score out. They still have the ability to hang in there. They had the lead going into the last rotation. They just need some hit sets.
Heading right into her third. She's planning 4 in this routine.
Oh, boy. Every time it looks like they're going to be able to hang on to it, they just falter. That sitting after that front flip is a huge deduction.
Big trouble on the triple twist to end. Two major mistakes in this routine.
Chinese not finishing well. As we mentioned, floor exercise not one of their strong points, and they're proving that to be true. A moment ago, Meng score 8.350. And now trouble here from Chen Mi as well. It's the Romanians that have all the momentum at the moment, and winding up on the vault, their best apparatus. Gina Gogin not getting into action earlier, but turning the Romanian team around. Bella checks the scores, and the Chinese have seen their lead almost evaporate here. 8.2, it has indeed evaporated. The Romanian team is the team that can wrap it up with a strong finish on vault. Here's Olaru. 8.525 she needs for Romania to win.
Well, Tom, if she can do one more, exactly the same as the first, it's wrapped up.
I really can't believe how easily they do this vault. She was way high on the horse.
The U.S. has seen Romania move past them, and now the Romanians with a chance for the overall championship. Good first vault for Olaru.
And they're not decreasing the value. She's going with a top-notch skill. It's out of a 9.9 Yurchenko double twist, one of the toughest vaults today.
A little bit better vault. A great performance from Romania on vaulting. Very impressive.
Indeed, they started as if it were going to be a very long afternoon. They completely turned their performances around. And as Olaru walks back, the average score 9.50. That makes it official. Romania wins the overall team championship, the U.S. second and China third.